welcome to the games panel, and we're going to have we'll have a break right after this. Now, I know some of you introduced yourselves last night. Some at least two new faces. Why don't each of you introduce yourselves to the group?
Okay. So Bill Raybach, managing developer partnerships and content partnerships at Blade Group, working with their Shadow PC game streaming.
All right, Nick.
My name is Nick Thomas.
Is his mic on?
My mistake. So my name is Nick Thomas. I run commercial partnerships for Hatch Entertainment. Hatch is a spin-off of Rovio, so the Angry Birds company. And we've developed a mobile game streaming platform. So for lack of more creative analogies, it's a Netflix for games style service where we stream the content from the cloud directly to a client and provide all kinds of benefits for the consumer.
Great. I'm Jen McLean, and I lead worldwide business development for AWS Game Tech for small and mid-sized studios.
And I'm Kevin Robertson. I run BizDev for ExcelByte, which is a comprehensive back-end set of services and platform tech, starting in the AAA game space.
All right. Okay, good stuff. So, I'm going to ask you a question. Now, this question may have a different meaning to each of you, depending on the nature of your work. Now, let me just open up with, why is cloud gaming important to you or strategically important to you? So, now, Bill, you're kind of, you really jumped into the pool there, so you're kind of committed. Yeah. But you know, why was it necessary to make that commitment?
Well, again, from my perspective, and you know, had been at NVIDIA for 15 years, and you know, the Kool-Aid there was always go to game developers, whether it was DICE before they got bought by Electronic Arts, or any random given big publisher, indie developer, and say, hey, NVIDIA is coming out with the GeForce FX, which is a really bad example if you're familiar with the history of NVIDIA and the GeForce FX. That was the one that was referred to as the leaf blower, right? But the bottom line was that every GPU cycle that came out, you wanted games that could be used as the poster children for the latest, greatest GPU. And then you'd do an internal demo of how wonderful this thing looked, and then the team that was working on the follow-on GPU, which was going to be the more cost-affordable, not as many pipelines, not as many, not as much memory, everything else, and $149 instead of $500, and it was like, oh, but we got to make sure that the game works on that too, and that is the crux of the fact that even today, nobody is voluntarily buying a RTX 2060, right? They want an RTX 2080. Everybody wants the top of the line one, but you have to settle for less if your power available in your laptop can't support it, or if your budget can't support it. Right. The thing that's intriguing about what companies like Shadow are doing, and frankly, even NVIDIA with GeForce Now, although they're kind of approaching it from a different angle, the thing that's interesting is that it is about access to that top of the line experience, right? And basically saying, okay, let's start at 4K 60. Or if you are a esports gamer, being able to guarantee that a user will get 144 hertz at 1080p.
So what I'm hearing is that you're still reaching out to gamers, and yet you're doing it in a way that they don't have to have a significant outlay for hardware.
Exactly.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a $2,000 to $3,000 outlay that is the big pain point.
Okay, and. Nick, I think you're in a similar swimming pool, maybe in the wading pool, maybe the hot tub, when it comes to cloud gaming. What are your thoughts? Why was it important? You're actually, forgive me, but Hatch Entertainment, that's a spin-off from Rovio, yes?
It is, yes.
So there was obviously a strategic importance to do that. Can you elaborate?
Sure, yeah. I mean, for us, the benefits of not having to upgrade your device by leveraging the cloud that's exciting and significant, but in mobile, that's not nearly as compelling. For us, Hatch So game streaming is at the core of what we do, and it enables things like subscription and enables other types of benefits. But for us, the key was always around this notion that we talk about internally called the lonely gamer. And in mobile, we have this sort of paradox where there's, we're more connected than ever, there's more mobile devices than ever out in the market, and yet people in the mobile gaming community are more and more alone in their experience, that we tend to play by ourselves, and that we think of gaming as this inherently social activity. Whether you're playing a board game, or you're playing tag, or you grew up playing PC, or Nintendo, or whatever, you enjoy those games with your friends and with your family. And in mobile, it's a very difficult paradigm to bring social experiences together. So the lens for cloud gaming was really about how do we enable social experiences? What's the best way to bring people together, to share your gameplay, to be able to have people join you in your session, to be able to take turns with your friends in this sort of remote mobile world. And the cloud was the best solution for being able to bring people together and have shared experiences.
So why would it be easier through cloud versus social features in mobile games?
So social features exist in mobile games, but they feel like a kind of a construct that's been added on versus it being at the core of the product. So for us, the social features are really inherent in what we're trying to do. A good example of that is the way that cloud compute allows you to run one game instance in the cloud and serve that same game instance to multiple players, all in a 100% synchronous fashion. So you're literally playing the same game in the cloud at the same exact moment. That allows me to connect with my friend, actually invite him into my game session and play a real-time synchronous multiplayer game while we talk to each other through voice over IP, and then even stream that out and share that with others who might want to watch. So it's a really new experience. It's not asynchronous gameplay. It's not organizing with a clan when you're going to get together and try to kind of put that together. In real time, I can have these experiences with my friends, and it's just much simpler. The architecture is already native, so if we want to work with a game developer to enable multiplayer functionality, you don't have to develop this highly complex network of all these different instances trying to communicate across different handsets and different OSs and different configurations. You just implement a very simple set of APIs that we provide, and that provides all that back-end matchmaking functionality to bring everyone together to play together.
So just so I'm sure I understand, it's not just about, it's a very important part of distributing the game through cloud streaming or cloud gaming, but what I'm hearing is that it's also about built-in API tools that developers can use that add social elements that they don't necessarily have to worry about, that they don't have to code themselves. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the experience and it depends on the project. So an existing single-player game like Monument Valley, as an example, you can play on Hatch and you can invite someone into your game session, pass them the controls, take turns playing that game together, just as if you were sitting next to one another, but this is through the cloud, so you're now actually having that experience in two separate locations. That on its baseline is very interesting. But if you take that further and you create new experiences that leverage the cloud and this real-time social network, then you can create games from the ground up that leverage this matchmaking multiplayer functionality and create, as an example, like a Mario Kart racing experience, but you're all racing in real time at the same exact moment in a competitive or cooperative manner, all powered by the cloud. And that's uniquely interesting, we think, on mobile through the tech that we've provided and just the benefits of the cloud in general.
Good stuff. So, Jen, you're nodding. I've never seen you agree so much in this whole conference. Why is cloud gaming important to you? Maybe that's a question. And why are you nodding with Nick so much? Like, why do you look like you're in agreement there?
Oh, I am. I am in violent agreement. And the cloud is important to me because I work for AWS. Using the cloud for gaming, I believe, can make every game, every genre, on every platform better. It can create better player experiences, and it can help developers make games better, faster, less expensively, and with a higher chance of success. And as somebody who has been a game developer, I have to say that it is brutal. It is extraordinarily difficult to make a successful game. And so anything that we at AWS can do to help even those odds, I'm really excited about personally. Now, I was nodding in agreement because, fundamentally, I think we already empower some of the largest game experiences on the planet. Fortnite runs on AWS, for example. And when you talk about gaming in the cloud, often multiplayer games are the first thing that comes to mind, or game streaming services. But the truth is that Rovio uses SageMaker, our machine learning platform, to create better single-player levels in Angry Birds 2 because they're able to predict player behavior and understand where players might get stuck and understand where there might be a retention gap. We see people setting up remote desktops so that they can work more effectively with distributed teams because they're able to configure everything in the cloud, and really your local machine is essentially acting as a basic client. Everything that we do, I think, can empower game developers and fundamentally, at its heart, make better player experiences. And so when you talk about creating these great new types of experiences that leverage some of the native functionality that the cloud can bring, I get really, really excited about that because fundamentally, we want to help people make great games. We want to delight the players.
So Jen, forgive my ignorance. AWS, arguably the largest cloud service provider, unless I'm mistaken. You don't have to brag. I'll do the bragging for you. But the question I have is, with the exception of Kevin, I'll get to you momentarily, you're surrounded by platforms that are distributing cloud, effectively. So are these platforms AWS clients? Are they potential clients? Is their success benefiting Amazon?
So AWS has something called the AWS Partner Network, the APN. And we work with over 1,000 vendors from around the world to offer our customers and their customers services that run on AWS. Sometimes those services compete with managed services that we offer as well. Often they don't. And for us, it's fundamentally about enabling customer choice. If a customer thinks that an AWS Partner Network provider better meets their needs, that's fantastic. We're really happy to bring that choice and bring that selection to our customers because we want to help our customers create amazing things.
All right, good stuff. Now, Kevin, you're welcome to answer why is cloud gaming important to you. However, your work with cloud and tools, and there's other services that you offer, and I'm wondering if you have a different spin on the answer.
Just to build on what they're saying, I was at AWS for a year after getting acquired by AWS at GameSparks, and I was at Unity before that. And I'd like to build on what these guys are saying first, that we're all in agreement, but I think also, cloud for us that we're trying to enable is really, there is scalability, and then there's democratization of that scalability. I think that's really the core of it, is being able to scale up and down with games. Before, I worked on Battlefield 2, and we had like our own real estate where we had to buy hardware and house all the game servers. And most companies don't have the capital to do so. And so the cloud is actually enabling a small company, maybe 2-3 people, to get off the ground without a ton of infrastructure costs and scale that out. So I think that to me is where we're seeing that where independent developers can have essentially a AAA level backend system running all the servers worldwide, connecting everybody. So to me, that's the main thing from us, and that's what we're also trying to capitalize on. And yes, we are AWS customers and enablers at the same time.
And we're excited to work with companies like Excelbyte because at the end of the day, it's about helping our customers create the best product possible and the best player experience possible.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, and another interesting way that the whole system kind of feeds into each other is that we estimate more than 90% of Shadow subscribers are playing Fortnite, right? Now, those 90% of Shadow subscribers are using Amazon AWS for the Fortnite backend, and we've also been able to kind of figure out that our servers happen to be in many of the same facilities as the Amazon AWS servers, because our Fortnite players are getting sub 1 millisecond ping times on Fortnite to AWS, right? So this is a case of, we've got our cloud thing going here, and maybe down the aisle in a data center, Amazon has their machines there, right? And that is kind of the overall benefit of the cloud in and of itself.
So sounds like you're all friends, yeah?
Yeah, no.
We're AWS customers too, so it's,
Yeah, I think we are, in part because we have the same goal. And I'm sure people are sick of me saying it's all about the customer, but it is all about the customer. That is what we share more than anything. We want to help developers create amazing player experiences.
All right, good stuff. So, Bill, briefly, can you explain? See, what I'm hearing differently with your platform is it's based on Windows 10, or at least a Microsoft operating system.
No, literally Windows 10 Home.
Okay, and why? Why are you going that route versus attracting developers to your platform?
So the average PC gamer that is a Steam subscriber has a time and monetary investment of more than 100 games in their catalog, right? And the notion of telling people walk away from your investment is a bit of crazy talk, right? No offense to the guys up the street, up Shoreline over here, but it is.
Wait! Rewind on the crazy talk. I didn't hear the.
No, the bottom line is to say to come in at this day and age with what is effectively another console, which is kind of what GeForce Now is, which is what Stadia is, right? They really, more than anything else, compete with the notions of the existing game consoles. But I mean, I started out life at Atari, so I know consoles really well. I was there for the launch of PlayStation 1 in the United States and beyond, and going into PlayStation 2. So the whole console mentality is deep in my blood. But the world does not need nor want another console right now, right? The PC is a beautifully known quantity for game developers. The tools are there, the services are there, and it's a wonderful thing to tell people, okay, well, no, here's a whole new set of APIs, and port your game to Linux, and by the way, the graphics API has to be Vulkan. Is driving developers to the point that they're like, okay, that's all good if you'll pay me to do it. But the reality is there's hundreds of PC games literally per day that become available on Steam. And you've got companies like Epic and Good Old Games and Game Sessions out of the UK and others that are doing a very good job of distributing games. They are serving their game players really, really well. And the notion of telling end users and consumers, forget all that because we know better and we want to curate a catalog for you, is the crazy talk.
Okay, well, Nick, you run a platform. I think it's focused on mobile, so unless I'm mistaken. What are your thoughts? I mean, how do you think of launching a new cloud-based platform in gaming? Can you compete? How do you see it?
Just to finish the Stadia sort of thought, I think what is interesting about Stadia, which is less relevant in mobile, is the sort of frictionless discovery, the promise of on-demand gaming and streaming. So one of the kind of pain points is downloading a game and actually having to wait for it to arrive. For a big game that can take hours. You can go to sleep and wake up the next day before you get to play it. So the notion of being able to just stream, maybe you get the first hour and you can see if you like it, and then you hit the purchase. All that's very interesting for me, I think, in the PC space. In mobile, it's not quite the same because downloading a mobile game isn't terribly painful. What is painful in mobile is sort of the curation side. Actually, is there's so much content out there. it's very difficult for people to know what to go and get. It's, sort of time consuming just to not download the game, but spend time with the game to decide if it's a piece of content that you enjoy. So that piece is tough. The app stores are bloated and overrun, and it's a little bit difficult to curate for individual people. But we take that even a step further because we're focused on premium content. So Hatch is a subscription service. So in being a subscription service, we're taking content you would normally pay for and bundling it in this all-you-can-eat monthly payment service. So the benefits there are that you get this curated catalog in terms of all the content is great. You have this frictionless paywall once you're a subscriber, and then you've got instant access to the content. So you start to take the benefits of all these different pieces of media and other systems that we've seen as very exciting. If you look at Netflix or Spotify, the way that type of easy, frictionless access to content has changed how people interact with content. And we start to apply that to a gaming model in mobile, in premium. We start to offer something brand new, something that's completely never been done before with all these pieces put together. And then you add the social features on top. And that kind of puts this beautiful bow around this notion of on-demand content with, curated, easy, instant access to playing games with your friends in a world that's already been kind of set up for you around the selection of content that we think you'll like. So that altogether in mobile is a completely new thing. No one's ever really seen that yet, and we're really excited to be leading that innovation.
So, Kevin, and I'm going to have a follow-up for you, question for you too, Jen. Kevin, I'm just off the top of my head, I'm going to list the multitude of platforms we've got ahead of us. We've got Google Stadia, Project xCloud, Hatch Entertainment, we've got Blade Shadow. I'm just thinking from the point of view of a content creator. And by the way, there's more platforms. Like this, this is what we could fit on the stage. What does it mean for a content creator that wants to disseminate their information? Do they have to code for each individual, platform? Is it one size fits all? Like, what does this mean for? Let's focus on gaming. What does this mean for a game developer?
We're just Windows 10.
I'll get back to you shortly.
But that's a good question, and I see where you're going with this. But yeah, I mean, before I answer that, I just wanted to say too, on the streaming side, I'm skeptical on the core gaming side of things. I think what Blade's doing is really interesting, but we don't games is 150 billion a year this year. Film will be like 55. Music will be like 50. And games is growing faster, and engagement around games is totally different than engagement around other forms of media. So you have, with Netflix, you watch a show, you watch a movie, and it's gone forever. With games, look at the top 20 games in the world, all of them are online, all of them are multiplayer, all of them are either some sort of cooperative or competitive. And that's the trend where we're going, and it's really hard to accomplish that with streaming right now. And I think Stadia, for what they're trying to do is really noble. I don't see where the core gamer falls into that marketplace. But answering your question on where we are with, to me, from a content development side, it's super exciting. We're in the Wild West right now because all of these new things that are popping up are becoming channels, and what Excelbyte's doing and what we're doing some very big things, is creating an underlying platform to manage all platforms, so that whether you're a two-person team making a small game or you're Rockstar or Take-Two, you have and you can see Rockstar's already doing it. You can see Ubisoft's already doing it, where they're basically saying, hey, we'll use you as distribution channels. So Stadia, Xbox, Blade, Hatch, all these things become distribution channels for your centralized platform or your centralized game, making it so you have a better chance of hitting a winner across multiple channels. But you still get to harbor the player experience and the player data underneath all of that, which is something that I think, we see it right now across the board in games, and to us this is really exciting, is that there's a platform battle, there's a launcher battle right now, right? Everybody's Epic Store came out, stirred up the drink. Ubisoft's making a deal with Epic Store. EA is going back and working with Steam and trying to figure out all these new types of ways to do distribution channels. Meanwhile, you have all these other mini to mid-sized to large publishers and studios about to build their own launchers as well to try to tie all that in together. So to me, on the content developer side, it's really exciting because you just have more opportunities to reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
So, Jen, I promised you a follow-up question. So, there's obviously, I should say obviously, there's a multitude of platforms, and I would venture, there could be a few that use Amazon Web Services for distribution, unless I'm mistaken. Would it benefit Amazon if it was easier for content creators to have their content on a multitude of platforms versus just one at a time?
I think it gets back to what is best for our customers. And it's not up to Amazon to say, all of my platform customers, you need to make it easier to work with each other. That's not our place. It's not up to us to dictate our customers' business models, and it's not up to us to dictate our partners' business models. We exist to support the businesses that our customers choose to pursue.
All right, good stuff.
Do you consider a game like the player a customer as well, or is it just the studio content creator as the customer?
I personally do consider the player a customer, but I think that is probably a new shift, and it is something that is unique to the game tech organization.
Right.
Okay, here's a question for all of you. 5G. We haven't actually, we had a dedicated presentation about 5G. It came up a couple times, but this ecosystem's really diverse. It's inclusive of 5G, and it goes well beyond. But I will say that I think there was how should I put it? There's a relationship between 5G and the excitement over, cloud gaming and streaming services. So the question is 5G enough bandwidth to achieve your goals? And if it's not, for whatever reason, can you achieve your goals anyway?
Yeah, I mean, so I routinely do demos of Shadow on LTE, on 4G. And it's actually really good because we scale down to H.265 at 5 megabits per second, right? I would not want to do a demo on a train going 200 miles an hour, though, right? But the promise of 5G is that I should be able to do that. And for that, and I was on a talk back at CES on 5G. And the promise of 5G, and what's really interesting about the games industry and about every single one of us up here, is we actually are a relief to the people trying to deploy 5G and justify their existence, right? Because really, at the end of the day, every time you circle back, interactive entertainment, whether it be a game from Hatch or somebody streaming Control or Shadow of the Tomb Raider to a phone or a tablet, or their laptop on a train, whether it's going 70 miles an hour or 200 miles an hour. 5G, when it is completely implemented with all of the cell towers and with all of the frequency bands in place and everything else, and that it's not 5G Lite or 4GE or any of the crap that's there right now, when it is properly done and properly deployed, interactive entertainment is going to be the cool thing to do with it.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, I think 5G's kind of, you have to unpack 5G a little bit. Like I look at 5G as fundamentally transformational in the way that the combustible engine was transformational, but also in the same sort of evolutionary arc, in the sense that 5G does not today deliver 100% of all of the bumper sticker value that it's promised, and it's going to take quite a while for all of these things to actually happen. In terms of the network coverage, in terms of the actual benefits, in terms of latency, which for us is really the key. Hatch, just as an aside, is quite interesting in our approach to the technical delivery. We're not a video-based solution the way pretty much everybody else is approaching streaming. We stream, we do something called command line streaming. So we're rendering in real time by sending rendering commands and using the local GPU, which is a really clever way to get around limitations of video streaming, encoding, decoding, and the bandwidth requirements that are inherent in that. So Hatch can work great on an LTE network also. We call ourselves a 5G service because 5G provides that sort of ultimate experience. When you're on 5G, it's like everything, you don't have to worry about anything. The last mile issues go away, all the concerns around what is the sort of congestion on the network and all this other stuff, that's all just irrelevant. 4G is more variable because the cellular networks change depending on where you are. So 5G provides this sort of insurance policy around the experience, which is really how we're positioning Hatch, but because our technical approach is unique, we can make it work very well on LTE as well. So just to kind of get to your answer, 5G today is sort of just more download speed, which is cool, but it doesn't really help us. And I think from the consumer, how many people are downloading 4K videos anyway? Everyone's just streaming them, so that it doesn't really help a whole lot. Facebook's the same, Instagram's the same, Spotify's the same, everything's for the most part the same on 4G versus 5G networks, but it opens this opportunity for innovation. And so as this network becomes real and as the latency and throughput benefits are real and more consistently available, then you put that in the hands of what I think is the most industrious and creative industry in the world, which are game makers, and they will then discover a million things that us on this stage have never thought of to do to take advantage of that new world. And Hatch is the foundation as a platform to bring those content experiences in once they exist, but the developer community is going to have a field day with this once it becomes something that they can really grab onto.
So I have one more question for you all. I'm going to go in reverse order this time. I apologize, by the way, Jen and Kevin, for not letting you answer that question. I'm just sensitive about time.
I had nothing but cynicism, so it's fine.
I like cynicism. I want to hear that.
So, I mean, we're seeing you've most of you have seen much of the conference. You've seen the speakers. You've seen the different talks. You probably read through the list of speakers, so you know who was here. Client to cloud. Do you see it as a series of products that work together, or do you see it as when I say work together, either deliberately or not deliberately, or do you see it as an industry?
Good question. Excuse me. We see it as something where as the content creation and developer pool grows in the industry, and it's grown exponentially in the last 10 years, I mean multi-exponentially, right? I mean, before Unity went free, you're probably looking at less than, I'm totally guessing, but I'm probably less than 50,000 game devs in the world, really? And then now you're probably looking at millions, a handful of millions of game devs in the world. And as that pool grows, and I'm talking people who either program, whatever, use an engine, whatever, and that pool is growing, but the pool of people who know networking, people who know cloud infrastructure, all of the stuff that goes into the back end and server side of code, not growing nearly as fast. So to me, client to cloud is very hard to scale unless you have companies curating it, like in AWS, like this company called i3D, that like us, for example. We look at it as it's not something you can do out of the box. GameSpark's PlayFab, they were out of the box. They're similar back-end as a service, where for us, we know that we're going to be this core hub of expertise that's growing and trying to basically be the central service and technology part of a lot of major studios, right? So that they can basically...
Product or industry?
Product.
AWS, a product. Okay. Jen, product or industry? And actually, which should it be?
I think it's a paradigm shift, and I'm really excited about it. I think product or industry is too narrow. Because at the end of the day, when you think about, how we are enabling creativity, how we are enabling a dev team of 5 people to make experiences that are commensurate with a dev team of 500 people, how we are enabling a startup that has $50,000 in the bank to deploy to 22 regions and 69 availability zones around the world and give a great experience to gamers from Helsinki to Bahrain. Like, that's a game changer. It's a paradigm shift.
Actually, let me rewind one more question for you, Jen. Again, you've seen a number of sessions. You've seen who's spoken here. Do you see this as a new, again, a series of products? And actually, we won't use the word industry. We'll say the next computing era. Do you see this as the next computing era?
Yeah, and AWS's CEO, Andrew Jassy, likes to say that we are, and I asked Bippo this question, he says that we are seeing technology progression and change at an unparalleled rate. There has never been anything like it before in history. And I think that that's true. I think that what we are experiencing is a phenomenon that we're hitting the hockey stick, and it's pretty amazing.
And would you agree with me if I said that to be a computing era, it has to be an industry?
No, I don't think I would.
Okay, that's interesting. Nick, your thoughts?
I'm not sure I have a lot to add. I mean, I agree with the paradigm shifting statement. I think this is transformational. That's sort of what I was saying with 5G in a sense, and that ties into the cloud in its own way. I mean, Hatch, from our sort of bubbled point of view or tunnel vision, is sort of trying to be the product that enables the industry, meaning you can bring your game to Hatch and we actually wrap it. You don't even have to off the shelf. You can just take it to us and we put it on the cloud for you, and boom, you're on the cloud. You don't need to even use any other back-end services apart from Hatch. And so I think there will be a whole different sort of portfolio of solutions, whether you're integrating something directly with AWS, whether you're coming to Hatch and just giving us your game and then we power the cloud for you, as a service effectively, which is really what we're doing. It's really our model. And all kinds of solutions in between, but everyone's marching this way. I mean, it's just like there's undeniable gravity that's occurring right now. And to try to fight it is just like a fool's errand. This is the direction of the industry, and the people who will win are those who will embrace it.
Industry. Interesting. Yeah. See, I listen.
I mean, one thing I want to add there too, I don't mean to skip back, but I mean, also every platform is trying to create their own back-end set of tools for every game. So that's one thing that I think there's a huge compartmentalization going on between platforms. Like if you want to ship to Xbox, you have to use Xbox backend, Google Play, iPhone, etc. So, these are becoming more and more fragmented as we move forward. So we need more specialists that are able to tie those things together better.
Yes. Yes. Finally, Kevin. Yes, that's good. Okay, Bill.
So one interesting thing on the client-cloud relationship side of things that oddly has happened to an acquaintance of mine related to gaming, because he started out getting Shadow as a, hey, I want to play games on it. But my friend is a videographer for Sky over in the UK. And what he wound up also using his Shadow for was he's shooting video in the field, uploading it directly to Google Drive, and then from his Shadow at a gigabit, accessing his Google Drive and downloading his content to his Shadow, where he's running Adobe Premiere, not exactly what Shadow was originally intended for, but it's within our terms of service that it's okay to use. And he's doing his editing and then posting to YouTube. So other than when he initially does his videography, that's the only time he actually possesses the bits. And then immediately he pushes them out to the cloud, and he never takes possession of them but they're within his walled garden within Shadow, which is kind of cool. And to me, that is a big paradigm shift, because it is this notion of out in the cloud, but protected.
So let's go back to the original question.
Right.
Is it is this a series of products, or is this a new computing era?
Well, if it's a new computing era, it will spawn a new set of products, is the great part about it.
But there's an industry involved. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason you're using Windows 10 is because there was an industry that supported that, right?
And there will continue to be.
Exactly. So
Right.
there we go. So
And we don't want people to have to write for a new set of APIs or
well, for you, like for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, and
Good
for
stuff.
Microsoft.
All right. Well, of course. Yes. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and then we'll move on to the next presentation. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause.